Salutations, respected viewers. I'm George from Ireland. So I'm at University College Cork. You can see above my head there the coat of arms, a bit like the Cork's coat of arms, and the words in Irish meaning where Finbar taught may Munster learn, because Saint Finbar was a local saint, meaning a bright head is what his name means. And there is an abbey which was founded in his honour in 1134 AD, Gill Abbey, not too far away. He's thought to have lived several centuries prior to that. Indeed, the historic cathedral in Cork is called St Finbar's, but that belongs to the Church of Ireland, not the majority Catholic denomination. Of course, it was Catholic until the Reformation of the 1530s, but that never really caught on here in Ireland. Only a minority of people ever converted to Protestantism, and they were mostly the English settler community who were living on the east coast of Ireland. A few of them around here, though, as well. Anyway, so we'll go in. But Finbar, he was associated with Cork City, but he lived in his hermitage on Gougane-Barra, on an island at Gougane-Barra in this little lake. So this is one of the channels of the River Lee flowing through here. So the Lee is the city that bifurcates Cork, and the very centre of Cork is an island. You may not realise it because you see how narrow the channel is. Blink and you'll miss it as you cross over. So the Lee Valley flows through much of Cork. Anyway, Cork is the largest county in Ireland in area, not in population. That's Dublin by a long shot. And Cork City is the third biggest city in Ireland, and it's the second city of the Republic. So there was a university apparently in Rosscarbery in the Middle Ages. I'm not sure quite when that closed down. Then there was Trinity College Dublin, founded in 1591 by Elizabeth I, and that was the only university in Ireland for centuries. And then there had been Catholic emancipation in 1829, as in the Catholic majority. We attained legal equality. And the Church of Ireland was the state church. It was established, and it ran Trinity College Dublin, and many of its graduates became Anglican clergy. There have been Catholics attending Trinity since the 1790s, but the Catholic majority said, well, we ought to have universities of our own. Lots of the government wouldn't agree to that. We're part of the United Kingdom at the time. Eventually, Queen's colleges were set up under Queen Victoria, one at Dublin, one at Galway, one at Belfast, and one here at Cork, so one for each of the provinces. Therefore, Dublin had two universities, Trinity College Dublin, and then the Queen's College. So they could award bachelor's degrees, but no higher. Then it was decided to change things. The Catholic clergy rather wanted a university under their direct control. Since the 1790s, there had been Maynooth, but that was a seminary. That was only for clerical students, so they take holy orders upon graduation. Obviously, we had the Irish College in Rome and the Irish College in Paris for centuries, but again, that was only for seminarians. Finally, there ceased to be a Queen's College, and it was made part of the Royal University of Ireland. And the Royal University of Ireland had University College Cork, University College Dublin, and University College Galway, and Queen's University of Belfast split off that then. Eventually, 1908 becomes the National University of Ireland, NUI, with these colleges at Cork, Dublin and Galway, but more of them had been added. Like Maynooth has virtually no seminarians now. Most of the students are laity, as in they're not preparing for the priesthood. And then there are a few others which are part of the National University of Ireland. Anyway, so here is UCC, and so we got mass third level education in Ireland, one of the highest participation rates on the globe. There are now 17,000 students at UCC, University College Cork. They come from over 80 countries, from Malaysia, from China, from India, as well as nearby European countries like France, Spain, Germany, Italy, and so forth. So medicine was a big part of what was going on here, which is why the skull and crossbones are one of the symbols of UCC, particularly for the rugby strip. James Joyce's father, Stanislaus, he studied medicine here for a while but dropped out. We're coming up to Aula Max, as in the big hall, which is sort of the historic centre of it. So we're on this bluff above the River Lee. So you can see behind me a bit of Aula Max. So we'll do a circuit of that. So Cork is a very handsome city. I recall reading years ago, it was the History of England by Lord Thomas Babington Macaulay, and he says that Cork has a college worthy to stand on the High Street of Oxford. Well, high praise indeed from someone who was no fan of Catholicism. Not that UCC was ever officially affiliated to the Catholic Church. So it's been a secular university, well, really since its foundation. Famously, there was Cecil Hurwitz, a chap who was Jewish, who converted to Christianity of the Catholic denomination in 1948. It was just after the Holocaust, so there was huge pressure on Jewish people not to do that, and there he was abandoning the faith. But anyway, he was an undergraduate at UCC, and as soon as he abandoned the Judaic faith, his family cut him off without a penny. He had to pay fees in those days. No students' grants or loans back then, and obviously most people leaving school at 14, so he just couldn't afford to carry on studying. They waived his fees, you see, favouring one religion over another, saying we'll effectively subsidise you on the grounds that you become a Christian. Above the gateway you can see the royal coat of arms, the lion and the unicorn. It's dating from the Victorian era. But we'll go into graduation ceremonies here, and there's a famous graduation photo I've seen from 1975. I shan't say who was graduating, and it says, "Do not walk on the grass," and there they are cheerfully walking all over the grass. What have they done building this house out of turf? Excuse me.
Well, this is known as a cob house or a bahon.
Excuse me.
And the Irish citizens of 1841
Look. So these little angels grasping the shields with a V. V for Victoria. Okay? Known to some as the Famine Queen. So the people are not very royalist around here, I think it's fair to say. We haven't bothered renaming everything. So here we are in UCC coming into the Isle Max. Because like King's Island in Limerick, they haven't bothered renaming it President's Island and King John's Castle. Thankfully we haven't bothered renaming it. So you get the idea. And then, okay. Right. So general studies of Cork, we have the sort of the flame or the torch of culture, of education, the book, the ship between two harvests, walking on it red and white, and then three crowns and the blue field, that's for Munster, as in this province, which is with a capital of Munster. Don't know why they're tents on here on this patch of green in the quadrangle. Anyway, doesn't it look fine? So you get some idea what it is, but here it's very tranquil. It's like a monastic cloister. I'm imagining that was the idea, sort of neo-medieval, when they built this in the 1840s. Thing is, it was the time of the famine, so there was the most horrific privation, and Cork was one of the counties most severely impacted by that. So in Ireland, at least 800,000 people died. Now, some of this is from starvation. Some of it was malnutrition because they had something to eat. Obviously, it was not enough, but the effect was the same. Others, it was famine, fever. Now, it's difficult to say which deaths you can attribute to the famine because some people, they were malnourished and then they suffered some malady that finished them off. And if they hadn't been in a debilitated state of health, they would have survived. So there's obviously some mortality in any population. How much of this is owing to the famine? As I say, it's debatable. Now you can see some flags up there, one of which is, it's not very clear, the rainbow flag, because we're all into gay pride. We're very PC these days. So homosexuality was illegal in the Republic of Ireland until about 1994, because so we separated from the United Kingdom in 1921, but we didn't want to throw the baby out with the bathwater. All the laws in the statute book remained in force. Those statutes were extant unless they were specifically repealed. And there was the Offences Against the Person Act, 1861. There was the Labouchere Amendment, which stated that any act of homosexualism was unlawful. Now, David Norris was a graduate of Trinity, and in 1976 he took out a lawsuit against the government, Norris and Ireland, saying that it was repugnant to the Constitution to make it homosexuality illegal. And I've read the judgment by the Supreme Court saying he's homosexual and self-understanding, blah, 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 and he lost his case. Astonishingly, the justices of the Supreme Court, they cited various early church fathers. What's that got to do with anything? This has no legal standing. And now, it would particularly have no locus standi because we were secular by 1971. We had a referendum, and we deleted that section of the Constitution, those clauses which said there's a special constitution, a special position of the Catholic Church. I've just noticed above that gateway there, it's too far away, I think I shan't bother going back, the royal coat of arms. I'm glad we haven't scrubbed it out. I'm not into iconoclasm. So you've got some sort of idea what this place is like. So I was slightly worried someone would come up and say, what are you doing there? You can't do this. Well, if it's a private usage, that's permissible, but not for publication. So this is it. So some of the more modern extensions are in sympathy with the oldest part of the college. Of course, it was tiny to begin with. And I remember in the 1860s when Stanislaus George was here, about half the undergraduates were Protestants, boys only of course, because although the Protestant community was a minority in Cork, like 10% of the Cork city, maybe a bit more, they were wealthy and could afford to come here. Most people were poor and had to leave school at 12, or if they went to school at all. Because remember, it's only in 1870 that we get compulsory schooling in the United Kingdom, which obviously included this island at the time. Publicly funded. You had to go to school at the age of 12. Prior to that, some people hadn't been in school at all. So now, are we coming up? There's the Boole Library after one of the professors in the 19th century. There's the O'Rahilly building, named after, I think it's Alfred O'Rahilly, a professor in the mid-20th century who was very prominent. And was he head of UCC, something like that? Because one of the astonishing things is that he and his wife, they decided to end their marriage, not divorce, in the 1960s. He was going to enter a monastery, she was going to enter a convent. Middle Ages is not an uncommon thing to do when you're quite old. It's astonishing. Anyway, the Boole Library. I've been into the Boole Library consulting documents there when I was doing some research about 2004. So that's it. It gives you a flavour of UCC. Walk through more of it. And it's just hugely expanded because when it was founded there were only like a couple of hundred students. As I say, 17,000 now. So this is a dining hall behind me. Over-expanded, if you ask me. Nobody asked me because there's no quality control. Of course, there's some outstanding students and there's some brilliant research done and all that. And many people certainly deserve to be here. I wouldn't want to go back to the 1840s, no. What I want to go back to is maybe the 1970s and the 1980s, that sort of level of exclusivity. I realise we're not where we were, where most people are going to be hewers of wood or drawers of water. So obviously people do need certainly a secondary education, and a few people need a tertiary education. We shouldn't be granting it to just any Tom, Dick or Harry who's lacking any aptitude for it, who's not really willing to make an effort. Because that becomes, of course, just a staggering way to squander public funds and indeed time, resources, everything. So a bit of this is part of the prison, and that was only closed in, goodness, the late 1940s. They had to share an entrance to the prison until 1928, and so people were executed here. So here's an IRA memorial, because after the Dripsey ambush, things gang awry for the IRA. So Dripsey is a bit to the west of Cork, and there was a redoubtable lady there called Mrs. Lindsay, who was a unionist, and the IRA had set up an ambush for the Crown forces during the conflict about 1921, and she got wind of it because it was noised around her town this was going to happen, so she tipped off the Crown forces, who were then able to surround the IRA. Fire broke out, some of the IRA were killed, others surrendered, some of them executed by firing squad and buried here. So that's that, because this was part of the prison. I think they were actually executed in what was then Victoria Barracks, now Collins Barracks up on the hill, but they were interred here later. But many people walk by this and don't give it a second glance. Every single word that's in Irish, by the way. Didn't put any up in English. I think they're trying to make a point. So UCC goes on that way. It gets decidedly bland, so grey and functional. Mid 20th century architecture done on the cheap is unbeautiful, to say the least. Alright, so what we're coming up to is at Glasheen Road, the edge of UCC. As you can see, the place is a hive of activity. And they're visiting students from the United States. They're people coming here on the Erasmus program. I would most warmly recommend it to you. It's big enough, probably not too big. It's quite close to the city centre. So that's main campus. It does have buildings dotted around the city, but the preponderance of them are close to the principal campus. So there's the Bon Secours Hospital, as in Good Help Hospital, just up the street, commonly called the Bonds. But that's not associated with the university so much. It's Cork University Hospital that the medical students tend to go to. It used to be called the Regional, but they named it University Hospital because they thought it was better, it looks better on somebody's CV. They're obviously having some elections to various positions in the student union. Okay, so that's probably about enough from UCC, giving you a flavour of the place, and I shall switch it off now. Toodle pip.